6 minutes, 95th to downtown. Edens is fine. Kennedy, 37 minutes. O'Hare to downtown. No savings to the Express. Eisenhower, 55 minutes, 390 to the Burn Circle. 40 from Manheim. Stevenson, 52 minutes, 355 to the Drive. I-57, 20 minutes, 90 to the Merge. Bishop, 425. Northbound Tri-State is very heavy from the Stevenson to 31st. That's traffic. I'm Jim Talamonte. On AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast from the 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning Weather Center and Steve Williams.
A winter storm watch tonight, flood watch tonight as well. Occasional rain and drizzle today. Look for a high of 47. Rain and breezy tonight, low 34. Winds will be strong tomorrow. That rain freezing on some surfaces. Could see some snow. Look for a high of 34. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
At 8:08, time for a dry basement and a healthy home. Time to call Permaseal, 800-421-SCAL, and time to check those updated temperatures. 48 at O'Hare, 47 along the lakefront. Your next news update is at 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560, The Answer, online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, on TuneIn, iHeart, and radio.com. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Mike Manokin runs the Democratic House floor for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when.
Yeah, that's Illinois' Piano Man, and getting more and more demographic data in. And we like to pour over it from time to time just to take stock. Wirepoints.org had a good piece on this. 93 of Illinois' 102 counties lost population since 2010. Yeah. Illinois' population dropped by 100,000 between 2010 and 2018. Only, as pointed out, 9 of the counties have been spared. By comparison, states like Indiana added 200,000 to its population. Fast-growing states like Tennessee, South Carolina added more than 400,000. Florida, Texas, California have added millions during the time when Illinois has lost 100,000. And where are they going? Justin Fox, who's an op-ed writer for Bloomberg, had a good piece on this. Where Illinoisans are moving. This is during that same period, based on data from tax returns the last decade, 2010, 2018. 75,000, in the first place, 75,000 plus moved to Florida. 69,000 plus moved to Texas. 55,000 plus moved to Indiana. It's not just the weather. 41,000 plus moved to Wisconsin, 36,000 to Arizona, 25,000 to Colorado, 24,000 to Tennessee, 22,000 to Georgia, 20,000 to Missouri.
Wow.
Justin Fox makes the point that domestic migration statistics frequently cited evidence of the failure of blue state governance, in particular the higher taxes imposed by states that are losing lots of residents. There's something to that. But California, Illinois, and New York have all experienced bigger per capita personal income gains than the nation as a whole since the beginning of 2010, and saw taxpayers with incomes below $50,000 overrepresented among the leavers from 2011 to 2018. So these departures may indicate failures of governance as well, but it's a different set of governance failures, presumably related more to housing costs, commutes, job opportunities than taxes per se. Wrong. Sorry, Justin, wrong. Number one, that's a failure to connect dots. Other failures of governance related to housing costs, commutes, job opportunities. that's connected to tax policy and spend policy, which is connected to tax policy. Isn't it, Justin? My house costs too much because I pay the highest property taxes in the nation. That's why I have high housing costs. My job opportunities are less because people are leaving the state, productive people. Businesses don't want to come here. I mentioned earlier in the week about one commercial property analyst who says basically his institutional investors have redlined Chicago. So when you have the flight of capital and productive capacity, you see job opportunities go down. Commutes, yeah, I can't afford to live close to my job because of all of the taxes and the cost of living here that's driven by the government when Illinoisans pay the highest combined state and local tax burden in the country. Number two, Illinois has the biggest spread between the incomes of people leaving and the incomes of people coming in. So Justin's got his data point there reversed, even though he's got some otherwise interesting data about where New Yorkers and Californians and Illinoisans have moved. In fact, the individuals who have left, the median income is north of $70,000. The individuals who have come, the median income is just above $50,000. That $20,000 spread, round numbers, is the largest in the nation. So, yeah, we're turning into San Francisco with the uber wealthy, the beneficiaries of transfer payments, nothing in between. But don't think that you have all sorts of sort of upwardly mobile entrepreneurial types flooding to Chicago. That is a lie. That's a lie. For more on this topic, as well as a discussion of the December jobs number, we're pleased to be joined by Scott the Cow Guy Shilady. Scott Shilady, a former Illinoisan he's in the data set. He's an Illinoisan who moved to Indiana.
I'm one of the 55,000 people that made the jump. Yep.
For the weather, right?
Yeah, exactly. And boy, I've never heard of an article of a guy overthinking something. If it smells like it, if it smells like it, looks like it, tastes like it, that's what it is, right? So don't overthink it.
How much do you think you've saved by moving to Indiana, just in property taxes alone? Not to get too personal, but yes, I asked a personal question. So.
$35,000 a year in property taxes.
That's a big number. That's a big number. Oh, my goodness. Oh, boy. Ooh. By the way, a related story, U-Haul, top growth states, 2019. Florida's number one, where people are renting U-Hauls to move there. And Illinois is number one with people renting U-Hauls to leave.
I think U-Haul named Pritzker their salesman of the year.
Yeah, exactly. Precisely. No
and
question
our employee
about
of the month is JB.
Congratulations. Exactly right.
Glazed ham.
Well,
all right. So, it's Occam's razor with respect to migratory patterns. We got that covered. What about the jobs number? A little bit less than ADP had predicted earlier in the week, and a little bit less than the Street predicted, with coming in about 145,000 jobs. Any big reads on that number?
No, I mean, and as we've said before, the headline or what the media is going to want to write about tomorrow is the headline number, but it's a little bit of a disappointment, but not really. Look, unemployment rate's at 3.5%. That's probably the biggest. The biggest story is the wages are not going up. Really, that's the biggest story. But 3.5% unemployment. As long as we grow jobs at between 75,000 and 100,000 per month, we're going to keep that unemployment rate low, like at 3.5%. So that's good. So this number, while it probably missed expectations, you have to be worried about what those are. And so 145 is still not bad. It's just a little bit lighter than what we were expecting.
And with respect to the look ahead over the next 10 months in the run-up to the 2020 election, do you see any particular gathering storms in the short term that would change the trajectory of the economy?
No, I don't. And, I'm fairly critical. And last year, and I've spoken to you about this, Dan, is that we had three headwinds, really. The biggest being China and the tariffs, and then we had the USMCA here, and then Brexit and how that might affect Europe going forward. Well, those things were headwinds last year, and they're kind of turning into tailwinds this year. So if he keeps giving us these numbers, and we now have what were negatives last year turn into positives this year, it's going to take one heck of a black swan to kind of throw this thing off course. And who knows if that could happen? I mean, there's always a 10% chance every year that you could get a black swan. There's always going to be some sort of probability. But this is just making them harder and harder to beat.
Besides 145,000 jobs added in December, The unemployment number held at 3.5%, which is, I mean, that's the lowest unemployment we've had in 50 years.
Yeah, and I mean, we're seeing record after record being broken that way, and on top of it, Amy, there's 7 million jobs out there we can't fill. So think about that. That's the problem. So I will say this. The only thing I can think of that makes me a little squirrely is the fact that we've got such great jobs numbers, and we can't fill 7 million jobs, but at the same time, employers are not competing to pay people more. You would think that wages would be rising because employers would be fighting to keep people or bring people in, and it's just not happening. So what we're putting in the engine, we're not seeing come out properly in the exhaust, right? There's a leak in our system somewhere, and I know that's what Powell's thinking, and that's what Janet Yellen was thinking, and the brightest minds can't really figure out where this leak is, and that's really their main job. And once we get that sorted out, then you'll see some wage increase, and the markets are going to like this today because wages aren't going up, and that's an inflationary thing. And if wages were going up, you'd start to, people would start to say, oh, we might have to raise rates, slow down inflation. But this is definitely not an inflationary number. So the markets will take a sigh of relief, thinking we're not going to raise rates, maybe keep things the way they are, and so we're going to probably just grind a little bit higher. So it's all in all, it's not bad. It's just not as sexy as people wanted it to be.
Well, speaking of the Fed and inflationary pressure, I mean, we're still in uncharted territory with respect to easy money, quantitative easing, de facto quantitative easing that continues to perhaps arguably in part prop up the stock market. What about that as a concern?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those hits and misses. It's a miss because 15% of Americans own 85% of the stocks. I mean, that's the roundabout general figure. So 85% of the people out there are missing out on this stock market rally, number one. That is also, partially artificially being fed by the Fed. So that is something that has to be that is a concern. But again, if you keep getting these numbers and there's so much investable money out there to be invested, that there's kind of a problem there that people need to see return, and they just kind of keep flocking to the market. So I'll say another shocking statistic that 30 years ago we had twice as many stocks to invest in. So in 30 years, how many more people do we introduce into the country in 30 years? How much more money have we introduced in the markets in 30 years? And you have half of the things to invest in? What would that automatically tell you is going to happen? So a large part of why these things are going up is because there's not enough places to put your money. So there are some commonsensical things out there when you really look at it that make you kind of think and get a little nervous. But as long as there's that much money out there and we keep growing our population, that's probably going to be the case.
That's an interesting point.
That's ominous. How did the markets react after the attack on Soleimani?
Well, I tell you what, I was up every 2 hours that night, and just to kind of keep my eye on the markets because I have to try to kind of build a story so I get a feel for the market overnight. When I come in, it's not cold. And we started off with the Dow Jones was down over 400 points after that happened. After the attacks on our bases, all right? There was another big sell-off when Soleimani was killed too, but we had a 600 or 700 point rally from our lows the same day. I mean, what we're seeing is unprecedented as far as market volatility and movement, but even the volatility index, the fear index that you probably heard about, isn't reacting either. It's low too. So it's the complacency, all these things are lining up to, be something that Sean from Melbourne Park would love to talk about, but there is a market complacency. There is a lot of money out there. There's free money. I mean, there's not a lot of great things that give you a lot of comfort, but at the same time, money keeps flowing into it. So you kind of have to keep your heart out of it and do what's in front of you.
One other disturbing statistic this week is that Tesla is the biggest car company in American history by valuation. Sort of remarkable. And I wonder what you think of Elon Musk, and I don't necessarily need you to comment on his striptease in Shanghai, but you can if you want. Is he trending towards Gianni Agnelli or Preston Tucker?
His stock has rallied significantly. He's a breath of fresh air. I will say that. Whether you agree with him or not, he's an interesting character and he's great for headlines. But I'll say that a lot of if you take these if the test case to Europe and where they have these big incentives for people to buy these electric vehicles to get off of the gasoline, when they take those incentives away, nobody buys those cars, all right? And especially when you got gas at $2.50. Now this is a different story if the gas is $5 a gallon. So he's had a lot of bit of government help, and also something that people don't talk about is that, and it's hard to explain to the general public, but there's a big short interest in this stock because people don't believe his story, right? So they've gone out, borrowed stock from people, and paid them interest on the stock they've borrowed, and then gone and sold it in the market in the hopes of buying it back cheaper later. Well, they're getting their handed to them right now because they're getting burnt because they have to get out after a certain point in time, and that is what I think a large part of why you've seen a rally in the stock because the short guys have to get out. They've sold it too low and they have to buy it back.
That's interesting. He is Scott Shellady. He's always interesting. Scott the Cow Guy Shellady, Fox Business contributor. Scott, thanks for joining us.
Have a good weekend.
Have
a weekend.
Take care.
Right.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Hold fast! The best picture of the year is 1917, Rave's Forbes magazine.
We've got orders to cross here. That is the German front line.
It's a soaring tribute to heroism that's both epic